Alright, so now we're done with the Defiled Chalice. It's on to the final one, the Hill Chalice. The bosses in this area are not nearly as horrendous as they are in the Defiled one, mainly because you have all your health back, but also because there's only one that applies a really serious amount of pressure on you, and it's this boss that's coming up right now. He's the most difficult because of just how in your face he can get. The strategy for dealing with him is very similar to Keeper of the Old Lords, but if you try it like I did here, right at the start with just a pistol and the one-handed sword form of Ludwig's Holy Blade or something similar, you'll find that he's really kind of difficult to deal with unless you're really on point with your parries. Because if you miss a parry, he'll very quickly get back into his combos, and if he's doing an attack and you fuck up a parry or you attack him, he will just hyper armor through whatever you're doing. Unless, of course, you're using a big two-handed weapon like Ludwig's Holy Blade Transformed, or the Kirk Hammer, or Bloodlether, or something like that. Or you're using a Blunderbuss, which is what I end up doing on this successful run. I switched to Ludwig's Rifle just because even if I miss a parry, I can still stagger him out of any of his combos, and he can combo for days. In his second form, he basically just gets infinite combos, and he can just attack and attack and attack and attack, which, considering the amount of range he has and the distance he can cover, is relentless and is just horrifying to deal with. He's a very infuriating boss, but if you manage to stop his combo, shut him down with good parries or using a blunderbuss, you can stop him being absolutely horrendous, but easier said than done. I'll let the attempts speak for themselves from here on in. This next boss is another one of the cases of reusing an old boss, but adding a different twist to it. In this case, this boss has a new second phase. The problem with it, though, is that it's a second phase that only really ever does anything once you're a certain distance away from the boss. If you stay close to it, you don't really notice anything different, because it doesn't really have any unique moves dealing with you when you're right underneath it, which you will be, because it's the way to deal with the Bloodborne moves. Like, so this boss doesn't have any new tricks once you adopt that strategy. Like, it's fucking worm, chicken, rooster head thing that it pops out. Becomes a Walla Lolla turkey. Yeah, it's irrelevant, because if you do what I do, it changes nothing about what the boss actually does, or your strategy. So, there isn't really a lot else to say about it. It's the same fight, more or less, so enjoy, I suppose. And so we go on to the final boss of main Chalice dungeon progression. From here, there are no other unique bosses to the best of my knowledge anyway. I did check. I actually like this boss quite a lot. I just hate all that fucking hassle it takes to get here. Not just killing the bosses, but also just getting all the materials for the Chalice dungeons, having to go through all the side areas to go get those. It just takes so long. There's so much faffing about for the same old areas. However, I do still really like this boss, not only because it's a unique story boss. Like, this is Yharnam, the Cimmerian Queen. This is where it all began to an extent, where after digging through the Chalice dungeons, like, people like Master Willem and Lawrence of Bergenworth find all this old stuff connected to, like, the Cimmerian Society and all of the eldritch shit they got into and the power of the blood. And it starts off Yharnam's descent into madness with the power of the blood and all that stuff, and I swear it begins with this merging of human and eldritch being that is Yharnam's child, which is heavily implied to be Virgo. And so yes, later on, I think, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this order-wise in terms of videos and playlist, but this is the woman who was waiting at the top of the tower thing in Mensis. Yeah, you'll know if you've seen it already. But as a boss, I really like this boss because she has a lot of interesting tricks up her sleeve, but she very rarely like one-shots you or anything like that. As long as you're careful, anyways. A lot of her hard-hitting stuff is quite well telegraphed, so it's not that big a deal. And everything else is manageable enough. One of the things that it's probably going to split opinions, is that you can't just go in her face and just R1, 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 because if you do, the baby that's inside Yharnam casts like a spell that stuns you in place, which can end up being GG if you're in second phase and she just flurries on your face. But what it means basically is that you can't just rely on big damage to just go spam happy and fuck her up. You have to take your time, and what it means by that is that you see more of what Yharnam does, like in terms of her actual abilities, and it forces you to be more consistent in dealing with her attacks, rather than just face tanking everything and just doing shitloads of damage. Like this, if you, I'm not sure how to put it, but if you want to do a boss that's like memorable and doesn't get GG easied over and over, I think this is an okay way to do it. It stops you just R1 spamming, and it forces you to be like, okay, I have to learn what this boss does, without it being a case of, oh, if you get hit by anything but this one attack, you get one shot. It stops that sort of situation, and it's not that Yharnam herself is a particularly tanky boss either. She has quite a few good resistances. I think I eventually swap over to my Whirligig Sword just because fire damage it works out a little better or something. But like she doesn't have a humongous health pool or anything. It's just a matter of consistently avoiding damage as best as possible and getting the hits in when they count. Other than that, I don't think there's much else to say. The rest of it is self-explanatory. She does like pinwheel things where she sends copies of herself. That's what happens if you try to spam in her face and get stuck by the baby. She doesn't Nito shit with the ground. She has a lot of tricks up her sleeve, and that's what makes her an interesting boss to fight. It's not just a case of she's in your face spamming all the time, or she's casting tracking magic shit all the time, or she's spamming hats at your face. It's a mixture of a load of different things that by themselves are not particularly difficult, but in combination with each other can be interesting and can occasionally throw you off. Not too much. Yharnam is not hugely tricky, but she is certainly interesting and quite a fun boss to fight. I do actually die doing this, and it's because I forgot that I forgot how much damage the summoned copies can do. What happens is what I tried doing the first time around, so I tried dealing with all of the ads, and once I did, she immediately went and summoned others, and I thought, oh, I can't get rid of all of them because otherwise she'll just summon them all again. So I kept one alive intentionally for that purpose. That was incorrect. She just happened to summon more at the time. But the idea is that you want to get rid of the ads as quickly as possible, because otherwise they will do what they did to me and just RKO me out of nowhere. Which was quite a shock at the time, but yeah. Other than that, it's fine, and I'd recommend you go kill all the ads before you take on the Yharnam phase 2. With that, that should more or less be all there is to say. You do get an interesting, like, lore item at the end, but that's all it really is. And then after that, it's basically that is all of the unique Chalice dungeon bosses displayed and murdered on the Arcane build. I hope, if you've actually been watching these side videos, that you found it moderately useful, or interesting anyway. And I tried to keep it as concise as possible considering how long and drawn out the Chalice dungeons can actually be, without actually taking out too much of the experience, such as like all the deaths and such and so on. But anyway, thanks for joining me nonetheless.